everyone, and welcome to the Around the Ballpark podcast. My name is Mike Redmond. I am your host alongside Darren Redmond, and today we thought we'd invite everybody on the show. So we have Eileen with us once again. We have my brother, Tom Redmond, as well as Thomas, my nephew, and Mayor Rob Medina is on here with us as well, resident Yankee fan on the podcast for today's show. So, Darren, before we kind of get into the fun conversation, if you have a few words.
I got nothing. I got nothing. Go ahead. Back to you, Jim.
Okay, let's
No, I'm kidding. And we want to thank the mayor of Palm Bay for coming. Thank you, sir. So, in case you're wondering, guys, attention world, you got tax troubles? Nashville Tax Solutions has got you covered. Whether you're behind on returns, I forgot, facing a lien, or you just need some expert advice. The team at Nashville Tax Solutions is ready to help. Hear what some of the clients say, and I've heard this myself many a time since I read this every week. Chris Bennett and his team saved me from a financial nightmare. With all sincerity, they're knowledgeable, they're clear, and they're compassionate. And you know what the thing is? They know that each problem with taxes is unique and different. It's not a template. There's not a form that you can fill out. It takes time, it takes sincerity, and it takes the type of experts that Nashville Tax Solutions can provide. So please, don't let taxes stress you out. Reach out to Nashville Tax Solutions today. Call Chris Bennett and the good folks there at 615-502-2250. Visit NashvilleTaxSolutions.com or email info@NashvilleTaxSolutions.com. Nashville Tax Solutions, where tax resolution is achieved.
Awesome. And thank you, Chris Bennett. Just an awesome friend, awesome person. Definitely please do after you hear this podcast, not right now, just wait till the podcast is over and then go ahead and check out Nashville Tax Solutions for your tax needs. So thank you guys all for jumping on. I thought we'd kind of just quickly go around the table here and just kind of introduce yourself and just your team. And we'll just kind of take it right after that. We'll jump into some fun chatter. So Eileen, starting with you.
Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to be here, especially among all the family. And I'm the only girl here, so let's go Rays. And they won today, so boop.
And we've got my nephew Thomas here as well.
Hey, how's it going? This is actually my first podcast, so you welcome me to the club. I actually hate baseball, but I'm here just to listen to you guys. I'm kidding. I like the Mets. I watch the Mets once in a while.
Are the games not long enough for you? Is that it?
I don't know. You know what it is? Well, I'm sure we'll get into some of the stuff on why I don't go to the games, but I choose the Mets.
All right. Is there another Met fan in the house?
Yeah, myself. My lifelong Met fan, so Tom Redmond.
All right. And we had to invite the token Yankee guy. Who's that?
Hey, I'm Rob Medina. Thanks for allowing me to join you guys today. Really, I was inspired to see Darren Redmond, man, articulate himself on this tax company, and I was just blessed to see him, and communicate. I haven't seen him in a long time. So God bless you, Darren.
Thank you, my friend. I miss you as well. And thanks for the wonderful things you do for the good people of Palm Bay. And that is not an easy thing to do. And we as a society are better for it.
Yes. So yes, I appreciate that. So we have so much to talk about. So let's just kind of get into it. Don't really have an agenda for today, which is a little bit unusual. That kind of makes it a little bit more fun. So let's just kind of jump into right now. Let's start with Tampa Bay because we introduced Eileen first. So let's just dive into Tampa Bay just for a little bit. So Eileen, for those that may not be familiar with Tampa Bay this season, maybe they aren't watching Tampa Bay Ray games. Kind of how is their team doing right now and compared to recent years, and what do you expect from them the rest of this year?
Well, it's been a pretty rough year so far. They had a win today, but before that, I believe they had 6 consecutive losses. So they're not doing too good. They have a lot of injuries in their pitching staff, and so it's just not, they can't really seem to get in their groove. A couple of their big hitters, Randy Rosarina, he's not producing anything. Yandy Diaz isn't really producing anything. So a couple of their base hitters are getting on base, but it's just, they're just not getting the job done like they have in the past. And so I'm hopeful. I'm always going to be hopeful, but I just don't think they're going to get it done this season. But hopefully they're going to get everybody back. You know, from the injured list, they're all going to get healthy again, you know, and I hope that maybe they can squeak in on the wild card, but it's just not looking too good right now. But can I also take a minute to say, like, happy Memorial Day to all of our you know, all of our fallen veterans who did a really great thing for our country. And you know, Rob, Mr. Medina himself is also a United States veteran from the Marines. So thank you very much for your service, Rob.
And we'll go to you, Rob, next. As a Yankee fan, high expectations, of course, for this year's team, and exceeding expectations. It feels weird to say that about a Yankees team, even though it's been some time since they've been in the postseason, deep into the postseason, I should say. You still kind of expect them to win every year, and there wouldn't be a year where I would get surprised about that. So, what are your thoughts right now? It's got to be an exciting time to be a Yankee fan.
Well, first of all, let me just say it is a solemn time to, you know, have reverence for those that were fallen and the Gold Star families. It's critically important that we always honor the sacrifices that were made because we're able to speak about baseball. We're able to enjoy a ballpark, you know, it's for our freedoms. And so on this Memorial Day, let's just always remember that there was so much blood that was sacrificed. I think the stats since the Revolutionary Wars, 1.3 million have sacrificed their lives, the very fabric of our nation, that foundation, which the United States of America was founded on biblical principles. And most people try to get away from that today. You wouldn't hear that. But the truth is that we were founded on biblical principles. We chose to follow God. We chose the gospel as opposed to God himself chose the Jewish nation, the Israel nation, right? But we as the United States, our founders chose to be founded on godly principles. So speaking about the Yankees, I'm really excited about what has occurred over the last few games. I think people are starting to gel. I'm willing to bet, if I were a betting man, that we'll see more of back-to-back homers. Juan Soto just recently with Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton just homered during this series that we're facing San Diego, the Padres, the very first game of the series and a night game. And yes, it was close to midnight on the East Coast, and it's exciting to watch the Yankees. I said I wasn't going to take a trip to the Bronx this year, but I just don't know if I could fight every inch of my body because it's calling me to go to Yankee Stadium again. But yeah, it is a good time. But I'm a baseball guy. As I mentioned to you before, Michael, I love New York teams. I was raised there. So I'm a Rangers fan as well. And they're having an astronomical season, right? And I'm also a Giants fan. Most of you guys go Jets, Mets. I go Giants, Yankees. But there are some Giant Met fans. But yes, Michael, the Yankees are on a tear. I still think that they haven't clicked at full capacity. We're a pitcher or two away, and we got some folks that are rehabbing right now. I think Eileen nailed it. It's about how healthy we could be during the season, right? Because ball players can get hurt. Last year, we had a tough time with Aaron Judge being out, right? So it's about staying healthy and the calisthenics that lead to every day.
Yeah, a lot of times people look at that trade deadline to pick up that big free agent, that big name that's out there. But most successful teams, they have that person either in their farm system or that's going to come out from rehab. And that's one thing that the Yankees and Tampa have in common. Tampa especially has an entire 5-man rotation on the IR right now. But Yankees got some big guns coming back. So I expect them, you know, there may be a lull here and there too, but they're going to be there in the end. Like to jump to you, Thomas. So you mentioned you're not so much a baseball guy. So kind of, is it in person? Are you one of those where in person is one experience, watching at home does it resonate as well as for you, or is the game a little too slow paced?
You know what it is? I guess like all my friends, we all talk about football. Like when football season, we get into it. We all do fantasy football. That's how I really got into sports, was basically like through fantasy football and picking your team and drafting your team and putting it up against other people. Baseball, when I tried to do it, it was so much more difficult and so much more like complex to try to put the team together and worry about like I don't have time for that. Like my time is very limited. So to put together like a fantasy baseball team, it takes skill. So the guys that actually do it, like it's hard. I can't do a fantasy baseball team, which the fantasy kind of brings you in. Because like I might not like the Patriots, but you know what? I got a Patriots receiver going today. Like I'm into the game, I'm watching the game, and I'm into it, and I'm rooting for that. Baseball, it's a little bit different. I grew up, going to baseball games with my grandfather. Like today, to try to take my kids to a baseball game, I might as well empty my bank account. Even the Mets, who have they have like a horrible, they started off, good, and they drop off, and then they try to give you the tickets for free. And at that point, like nobody wants to go anymore. So start of the season, I want to take my kids to a game. I'm dropping at least $300-400 to take my kids, to give them the same experience that I had. So it just makes you like not really a fan of the game. I feel like baseball is something that you get a lot out of going there. You go to watch it, you get the feel. You get to see the guys run on the field, and it's more like it's more of like the feeling of being there and hearing like this, the crack of the bat. Like that, to me, that's baseball. You can't really enjoy baseball the same watching it on TV. I mean, the playoffs are one thing, like, watching the playoffs and, people get into it. But football, you can enjoy it. I actually enjoy it better at home, football, than going to the stadium. And baseball, I feel like I enjoy more in person. So it's the point that it kind of like pushed you out cost-wise, that I feel like it's costing fans, because I would have no problem taking my kids to a game if I can get them in the stadium. It's just, not that I don't like baseball, like I do watch it. I'm not like one of these guys that are like, oh, baseball, like I can't watch that, it's boring. No, I do like it. I'm into it. It's just that the everyday, it's not like part of, my life, my friends talking about it like football would be, that's basically how I feel. You have to go to a baseball game to really get the grasp of like, being a baseball fan.
Yeah, definitely. And you touched on a few things there, and then I'd like to get to you, Tom Senior, we'll call you. But the whole fantasy aspect of it, you're right. So with the baseball, you have to not only set your lineup daily, but with fantasy baseball, what happens is you draft like 7 starters, but then some leagues don't have a cap on how many starters you have. So within a week, you'll see people drop in Justin Verlanders and just what at main pitcher here, just to pick up the 5th starter for a team, just to get an extra start, to get an extra point. So it gets a bit ridiculous. So you have to, for fantasy baseball, you really have to be in the right league that kind of puts a limit on how many transactions you can actually make, because that takes a little bit out of the fun out of it. I did like the MLB had one, I think it was, for a while, where it was an entire pitching staff instead of a pitcher. That made it a little bit more fair and a little bit more fun. So you don't have to check your lineup every day. You could set your lineup for weeks in advance if you want. But I think you're exactly right. And Tom, I guess I'd like to hear from you about that topic. But in terms of in-person football, is just not for me. Watching it at home is like you said, Thomas, is a different experience. The crack of the bat. You can come down to Tampa though, Thomas, for $57 after taxes and take your entire family to go to a Rays game. Beautiful, beautiful views in Tampa. But Tom, so what do you think, having been to both a football game in person and a baseball game in person, do you kind of echo what he says about that? Is football meant to watch on TV, or what do you think?
Well, he's my son. And he's brilliant. So I agree with him. Being a dad, growing up as Darren knows, we and Rob too, because we talk about it. We used to just have breakfast in the morning, and you're able to get the tickets off the back of a milk carton by a collective manufacturer Hanover Trust. It was great. We would cut school to go to watch the game. Now you got to cut school. You got to get your check from work for the whole 2 weeks and then go to the game. You didn't have to do that before. It was great because you could play the game with your friends in the schoolyard or in parish leagues and versus other neighborhoods. And then you're able to go to the game and see Tom Seaver pitch and see the greats. And they were really entertained. Now Tommy's right. You got a family, you got a budget, you got to see which way you go just to go get parking. I was with Rob, and he took us, him and Lissette took us to a Yankee game. It was like $90 to park the car, So, and you're in there getting, he wound up getting us the tickets. He took a mortgage on his house, and I appreciate that. But we at Yankee Stadium was absolutely great. It was great, and doing it. But we used to do that more than one time a year. That was something you would do 5, 6, 8 times a year. So, and it wasn't just that; it was soccer games. We got to see Pelé play. So I think that whole thing with the sports, with the teams, they're not into it as they used to be. That's just my opinion. You had to feel like you wanted to go, you wanted to take your kids. My kids, Thomas and them, when we moved to Florida, we had the Marlins spring training not too far from us. So we bought season tickets there. We seen the Marlins the year they won the World Series with Jimmy Leland. It was great. But then there's years later, that passion seems to go because you just don't have it. To say, okay, I'm going to do this 3, 4, 5 times a season. It's not going to happen, and that's unfortunate. Being a Met fan, I'm investing in handkerchiefs right now because it's so sad what's going. I'm going to blow my nose and want to wave it that I give up this year because it's really sad. It's not a year that I just don't feel it. I just don't feel it with the teams. I just don't feel it with the manager. So I'm disappointed.
It is a sad year to be a Mets
Always
fan
a
for
sad
sure.
year.
But one thing you mentioned, do you ever though, like I think all of us in this Zoom here right now or this podcast, we've been in that where we're gonna bless you with a ticket. Free ticket to the game. Go to the game, they say. And then you pay for parking and for the hot dog and for a drink. And if you take the kids with you, they have to have everything. They're not even looking at the game, but they need everything from the menu. And all of a sudden, this free ticket plus gas is turned into this $500 expense. So, you almost want to are you sure? Are you sure it's free? Because I don't think so.
Well, I'll share something with you because it happened this year. If even though it cost a lot, if you felt you were getting something out of it, that feeling, then you're gonna go. I went this year when they retired Dwight Gooden's number. I wanted to go. My wife wanted to go. There, I can remember we were going out. And Dwight came back from his rehab in '87. I was saying I want to be there, so I was trying to figure out gamble which day he's gonna come back. I believe it was like June 9th or June 11th he came. We were there. So when they retired his number, I wanted to go. And Mary said to me, I want to get the tickets. We wound up going, and it's a great story. Everybody was wearing a Gooden or a Strawberry or an '86 Mets. The love in that stadium was like nothing else. The love was just unbelievable.
Wow.
And we were out back in right field where the restaurants are, and we shared a table with these 2 guys. They were brothers. And one's wearing a Dow jersey, one's wearing a Gooden jersey. And we just start talking about the '86 Mets. And as you looked around, everybody was talking about them because that was the passion. That was the way it went. And you talked about losing teams. We had losing teams before. I mean, the 77, 78, 79, we had Lee Mazzilli, So,
yeah.
So, I mean, but right now, there's nothing that brings you to it. I feel it's just
Lee Mazzilli, another good
thing
Yankee.
where you can turn around to your kid and go, "There's a Joe DiMaggio out there. There's a Derek Jeter. There's a Tom Seaver. There's a Jerry Grody." There was a passion, and the last thing, and Tommy brought it up before about cheering. You may not be a Patriot fan, but you went. I think that's the big difference. I wasn't a Yankee fan, but at all. But I knew every player. Yeah, a lot of respect for Thurman Munson and Greg Nettles and Louisiana Lightning. I don't see that today. I just don't see that passion kids flipping cards. You couldn't walk down the block, couldn't
Yeah.
go to school without flipping cards. So I think a lot of that is gone. That just that fabric that held things together. Kids walk. How many times you go down a block, see a kid walking down with a bat and a ball or a glove in his hand anymore? You know, yeah, you have them wearing T-shirts with Taylor Swift and all on, but where's the teams? Where's these kids wearing it? It was boys and girls back in the day. I remember when I met Eileen, you know, I was a big baseball fan. It was great. But where is that? Is that the norm today? I don't know.
Yep. And Darren, one thing too, like, you know, even, you know, you look back 15, 20 years ago, you could, even if you were a fan of the Mets, you could actually look at different rosters and kind of name, you know, pretty much the big names from all the teams. You could almost every first, I could at least, I can name every first. Now there's so many people that I don't even know about, just mostly because I watch Met games, Ray games and stuff. But, you know, and we've talked about this before on the podcast, but it's all about marketing these young players. You know, I want to, Paul Skeens from the Pittsburgh Pirates, he should be plastered all over everything. I mean, the guy has pitched 3 games and, you know, it's just amazing. And so I don't know if you guys have got a chance to see him pitch yet, but I think he struck out 8 of his first 9 when he played Chicago the other day. It's
He
amazing.
throws some nasty heat. Let me tell you what. I was watching. I was like, oh my gosh, is that like, wow. Like that was some nasty heat. So.
Yeah. And I just think there's something to that. That's going to make the casual or the fan that kind of lost interest or the fan that's waiting until the postseason to play to tune in when you have guys like that. I saw Ellie De La Cruz, another one from Cincinnati, hit an inside the park home run. I think he got around the bases in 12.4 seconds. It's insane. Those are the guys we should be hearing about, you know, and promoting and stuff like that. So, I want to ask you this, Rob, if there is one, because we all have those different memories, but in person, is there one game that you've attended in person that kind of stands out above everything that you'll always take with you? Was it your first game or was it a special highlight that happened? Is there one that comes to mind for you?
So I've got several that comes to mind. And one of them is going to shock you because I know, but I you know, Tom, your brother Tom nailed it. You know, we used to literally go into the general admission, 75 cents, milk cartons, the whole 9, whether it was at Yankee Stadium or Shea Stadium. When you think about 1975, I spent so much time at Shea Stadium. Let me tell you why. Because Yankee Stadium was being remodeled. So all the Yankee games were being at Shea. I spent so much time, and since I was going anyway, the Mets or the Yankees were playing, so I used to watch the Mets play as well. One of the biggest things that I loved growing up is Bat Day at Yankee Stadium. Bobby Mercer bat. I remember always running Thurman Munson bat. Growing up, my dad always made sure I was going there to those games, but he didn't stop there. He wanted me to get a helmet, and so we would go to Shea Stadium. It was about baseball. One of the biggest moments was for me that I witnessed was, and believe it or not, I would root for the New York Mets, but I loved the ball player by the name of Roberto Clemente. He played for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he represented Puerto Rico. What a humanitarian, what a ball player. If you've seen him running, you're talking about running the bases. This guy was all game. He was the heart and soul of the Pirates, if you ask me. But I remember him throwing out one of the Mets at a game at Shea Stadium with it was a shot to right field. He catches the ball and unleashes the guy tagging up from third base. I don't know who it was, but I don't know how old that was. I must have been 10 years old. And that was the aha moment. That's why I don't remember much of the details, but that has imprinted my life to see. I think it was one hop. I believe the catcher might have been Manny Sanguillen, and he applies the tag and gets the guy out. That's unheard of. From the warning track at now Shea Stadium back in the day, it seemed like 600 feet to me. Of course, it wasn't that. I'm 10 years old, but you're talking about something that really made an impression in my life. And that was it. Now, I also wanted to add, back in 1977, I remember saving some money. and getting box seats for like $5.50. I'm talking about right behind third base, you know, $5.50. You know how much some things go for now? Tom's right. I probably had to mortgage the house to go have some fun over there. But to me, there's not a price that you can pay for memory sharing with people that you love. And it doesn't matter, because that's what I'm taking with me when I go to heaven. I'm not going to take any cash with me when I get buried. So to me, the value of sharing that time with my wife, we were at Yankee Stadium for what? Derek Jeter bobblehead. I wasn't missing that for anything, right? I got 2 Derek Jeter bobbleheads in the box, and I'm willing to sell them for like $3.50 each if you watch it. I'm not selling them. You better come big or stay home. Anyway, but you're right, man. The game of baseball does bring a lot of tradition. For me, growing up, maybe there's a lot more value to it because, like Tom said, there wasn't a day we weren't outside during the spring or summer without a bat and glove. We would have pickup games. It didn't matter. We would go looking for other teams, right? We would just go to the park and wait. When we weren't playing Little League, it didn't matter. And so I think the game has changed in that. A lot of free agency has changed it in that regard. The baseball cards, oh my gosh, Tom, you nailed it. I don't see kids playing cards anymore. I remember having a stack. But anyway, it's just the game has changed in that sense, but I love the superstars that are today. It's unbelievable. The level of talent that I see is noteworthy. You have to commend these guys. I'm really proud of Juan Soto wearing pinstripes today. I hope we could keep him. But remember, it's also a business. And that is the aspect that as a child I didn't comprehend until I got older.
Yeah, and one thing, you know, unfortunately, especially New York media, if Soto does leave the Yankees and goes elsewhere, oh, it's going to be all about the money. Well, no, it's not. I mean, their owner said it themselves. It's not feasible to be able to continue that kind of spending moving forward. Hopefully they get a deal done, because it would be a shame, I think, to see him hop to another team. There's just something about him in pinstripes that works. And so I would like, of course, we'd love to have him the other side of New York, but I think he needs to stay on that team, because, you know, then you run the risk of 4 teams now in however many years. So I would actually like to see that. So, but Eileen, what do you remember? Because besides getting to play with me in softball, you know, that must have been a highlight for you. But
Oh, yeah, of course.
but like, what drew? Because I have it made. Like, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I get to go home after whatever I do and watch like 150 out of 162 games, sometimes 2 a day with you, Eileen, because, you know, most wives will not want to watch that many games. So I'm blessed that you want to watch pretty much all of them. And you don't turn it off in the 3rd inning if they're down 4. You still have hope. But like, what drew you to the game of baseball?
I think so. I'm gonna go way back when I was super little. I was the only girl in the neighborhood, and so if I wanted to play, I had to play sports. And I mostly played football with the boys. I had this weird wart on my knee. Don't tell everyone, but it was on my knee, and we played tackle on the cement. Like, and I remember I got tackled, and I never had that wart again. And then, but you know, I got tackled on cement, and it worked though. It worked. We won. But so I remember, and you hate this rule, and it's so funny, but I remember we didn't have enough players, and we were playing baseball. We had to get a ghost runner at second. And so I remember playing, and I remember being like, they were like, no, we tagged him. I'm like, no, you can't tag him. He's a ghost runner. Like, I was so upset. But so yeah, I grew up, and it was like in the 90s. So I mostly really liked the Cowboys, and that's when like the triplets, and they were winning those Super Bowls back to back, and it was Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith, and you know, it was really awesome. So
Michael Irvin.
Michael Irvin. Yeah. So growing up as a girl, the only girl in the boys' neighborhood, is kind of how I got really drawn into the game. Then when I was kind of around 12, 13, I got drawn into a family here in Palm Bay, and they were really big into softball. They were my foster family. And so they put me in softball too. And so my foster dad was Mike's coach. And so we ended up, you know, we were just friends. We didn't even know that we were going to be married. Like we didn't even know what like romance was yet. And so, you know, that's how, like a lot of people are like, oh, it's just a game. No, man, it's not just a game. Like this is family time. All right. Like this is what's up. And then fast forward to now, I think like Mike had asked, what's like the most memorable moment for me in baseball? And I have to give it up to going to Fenway because that was phenomenal. I cannot tell you how much I loved being in that stadium. And the Rays lost the first day that we were there, but I was still having so much fun because everybody's cheering and like singing songs and clapping. And I mean, it was just the atmosphere. It was electric. It was just so much fun, so much happiness, so much good times. It was great. And then, you know, I think it was game 3, when the Rays saw the Red Sox at Fenway. Randy Arozarena actually threw me a ball, and I have it. And it's like, I have it here. It's in my living room, and it's in the glass case now. So that is like the most memorable moment for me from baseball, is that I got a ball from him. So I heard also that he will sign autographs, but only for kids. So next time we go to St. Petersburg, I'm going to pay some kid like $20 and I'm going to hand him my ball and be like, go get this signed for me.
That's yeah, because we actually took a video of, she was actually recording that when Randy threw the ball. So the first half of the video is all clear, and then the other half is fumbling around to get the ball. And she also snagged one, Taj Bradley, the starting pitcher, threw one to a friend of his in the row behind us, and they dropped the ball, and Eileen just grabbed down and snatched it, and nope, sorry. And so now we have
Finders keepers.
so finders keepers. So
was it as much as getting to Yankee Stadium? Was the tickets just
no, so
as much?
so the flight there was cheap. I mean, granted, we're on Frontier. You couldn't move. You know, you're just like, but you have to pay literally for everything. Like even unless you got water, you had to pay for soda, popcorn, whatever. But the game tickets through SeatGeek were actually $32 and $38, and I sat 5th row and 8th row on field level. So that was a Rays series. I was shocked. So the tickets really were not, and I got to see 2 hours. We got to see 2 hours of batting practice, which is awesome. So that was it. It's the hotels. The average, and I didn't pay this, but the average hotel for 3 nights combined was $1,700 for 3 nights.
Whoa!
I didn't pay anywhere near that. I'm good at finding deals and stuff, but if you just kept cold calling, that's what you're gonna find. There was Diana Ross's in town one of the days, so it was a little bit up because of that, but it was crazy. So, but one of the things I want to talk about, one of the other experiences that we had, and Thomas, I want to go to you next, and Darren, if you could jump in as well. Doesn't have to be a baseball, but one of the things we experienced was some heckling. We had a fan come down, sat in the front row, and was in his seat, and starts cussing, and the security there was like, "Hey, please watch it." And guy's like, "I can say whatever I want." He's like, "Well, it's not your seat. Please be courteous." He gave him every chance in the world, wouldn't stop, so they tossed him out. So Thomas, have you obviously with being a football fan, have you seen that in person? Where it was just obnoxious, because sometimes it's kind of funny. You always have that guy sitting behind you, where their spouse is probably embarrassed about them, but they never really cross the line. But have you seen that like in person firsthand, where they completely cross the line and it's hard to like keep your composure?
I mean, I've never seen a fight. I mean, I've seen guys that I'm like, get this guy out of here. I don't know. I don't like stuff like that. You can get into the game without being obnoxious and ruining everybody else's time around you. Even the guys that they get over the top and they drink too much and then that's it. I don't like to be around like those type of guys there. I mean, I've seen people say stuff and do things that you probably shouldn't do. And, oh, I hear them, oh, run on the field, I'll give you $100. Like that stuff to me, that come on, like, just enjoy the game because, yeah, it's funny. You run on the field, but then everybody else's game is ruined waiting for you to get off the field. Things like that. I don't enjoy it, but I've never seen like it get to the level of a fist fight. I've seen people go back and forth having words, but never like a fist fight or nothing like that.
If there's ever a fist fight and you're off duty, but you're there, like, do you have to like, I don't know, like as a police officer, do you have to jump in and like, and
Oh, you
save
could-
the day or?
No, you just call 911. Like some period, yeah, but if two people are fist fight, better.
That's good. Darren, we saw you
Oh.
celebrating a few minutes ago. Was that it, or?
No, the Swanson's TV dinner was done, so I was very excited about that because it was the one with. What?
How did the
No.
brownie taste? Really good.
No, that's the whole thing. It was the one with the mashed potato and on the side the apple cobbler. So that's exciting. Why? What do you ask? No. So there's a lot to unpack since you asked me a question last time and then didn't wait for an answer, moved on. So here's. So
He does that. He always does that. I swear, he does it to me too.
no, but I do the same thing, and I teach, and I ask somebody a question. So and so, tell me about, and then I give the answer, and I move on. And they said, and I'm not smart. Anyway,
I mean,
so
just past you. I mean,
I'm sorry.
we could just move past you if you like.
You should. The whole world does. Why not? You know. I mean, it's why and that's how you get respect. I can't help it. So here's a couple of things, right? I am leaning very hard into. I'm the old man who yells at clouds. Let's talk about the old days. It was always better in the old days. But listen, I mean, you all hit home runs. Roberto Clemente, number 21, was fantastic. I remember the throw you're talking about, precise. It was 378 or so from that part of right center, and he threw a BB. Manis again, he had the leg out like this. I mean, it was wonderful. By the way, those unis were great. Speaking of uniforms, can the Mets stop with that gosh darn nonsense that they do with those City Connect? Oh, the blue Friday night with the stop. How about a nice traditional uniform? Let's go. I give the Yankees so much credit. They wear the uniform and say, you know what? We're going to wear a uniform and that's it. Oh, you got to wear the City Connect. Why? To manipulate more money from people? To put parents, hardworking parents, behind the 8 ball so their kid can cry? It used to be about cotton candy for $4. Now it's about 97 different jerseys. And, Tom, you brought up a great point about flipping of the cards, right? You know who I blame for that? People our age. Because in the old days, kids would flip cards. Now you got people our age stepping over kids to buy the pack, to put it in a box somewhere. Nobody opens it. They're going to sell it. I mean, stop. Just stop. I'll tell you, we're all people of faith here. And I say this with no judgment. I know that I sometimes feel tested. I teach special education for a living, and I will tell you that between the way I saw people step over each other for toilet paper, reach over granny to get the last piece of toilet paper so they can show their friends on Facebook that they got the last one. Look at my Ford F-150 is full of toilet paper, and grandma is wiping with a leaf. And I just. But that's what you have right now in baseball, isn't it? Right? The outpriced the tickets, the average Joe and the average Jane, they can't go to the game unless just bring their kids. And if they bring their kids, they have to look their kids in the eye and say, mommy and daddy can't buy you that pretzel because it's $97. Parking, and I showed this on my social media, to go park at a Giant game is $100 to park a car.
Yeah.
It's more expensive to park. By the way, the Red Sox do it right. They do it right. Outdoor tickets were moderately priced. Parking was expensive, but not horribly so. I parked literally across the street. Fenway's in the city. Valet parking, $70. Okay, let's go. I'll do that. I have a mini ticket plan. Now, I love my Mets. And when did it become so hard for people to criticize their team, and then all of a sudden you got to be, you're not a real Met fan then? Well, I'm not a real Met fan. I watched Tel Winter play. I watched Frank Tavares play. I watched Roy Stagel play. I watched the worst of the worst. But at least they hustle. This team doesn't hustle. it just doesn't, but they do have 7 uniforms. Yay. And I'm done.
Oh,
You know,
oh.
I
bring
mean,
up a good point though about
they
the
invested in you. Like they didn't invest in me. You know, like growing up, baseball, the guys invested in
Point. You're right.
know,
Great point.
right. They didn't invest in. They're not invested in me. There's definitely more of you sitting in the stadium than there is of me. If you look around next time you sit in the stadium, look around you. You're going to see a bunch of guys that look like you, and not some guys that look like me.
But the good
know,
news is
very
that we
good,
get the
amen.
discounted dinner because we're old.
Well, no, and he's right though. You
He
know,
is right.
so I want
the fact
to
is that I also believe that there is a.
Go ahead.
Oh no, okay. No, what I was saying was that Tom is right. You know, when you look around, they didn't invest in it. I think they skipped over it, unfortunately. I know that when I was growing up, I grew up. My mom and dad, they got divorced. Darren and I, we witnessed it. You know, we had some hard times. But you know what? Morning came, picked up that bat and glove, and we were able to go outside. You know, when you were talking about being at a game, I remember a bunch of games, but I remember it was either Darren's birthday or mine. We're kids. We're 10, 14 years old, 13 years old. When Pete Rose slid into Buddy Harrelson. We were
Oh,
watching that.
My birthday.
Now, we
My
got
birthday.
a birthday going on, and
Yeah.
that's where our focus is and our friends watching that game.
that's
We
in the
watched
playoffs,
Brent
right?
Garrett run
Yep.
over, you know, and then
Yep.
we are able to
John
talk.
Milner.
Fast forward 13 years, 14 years later, we're talking about the 86 Mets again vested. They vested in us.
Yep.
Thomas is right. Mookie Wilson used to have to be a truck driver. Some of these ball players love the game so much that they had a second job. That meant something to us because they had the passion of the game, you know, and we would save up and get those jerseys. So he's right. You know, as you look around these stadiums right now and listening, like Eileen was just bringing up, you know, look how much it meant to her to be in Boston and be part of that. I wonder how many people in their 20s and 30s are saying that today. So I think it was a really good point.
Well, can I just bring up one other thing? I mean, seriously, I know we have to go soon, but you want to know the difference, and it's not that people would just like, yeah, you know, put the kids in the back of the station wagon and don't bubble wrap them and whatever. Rob, you brought up a great point because, again, you know, I'm a huge Met fan, but the Yankees do everything right. They do everything right. I remember in the mid-70s, I mean, South Bronx was a tough place to go, you know, but you still gave away bats.
Yeah,
Full
man.
bats. I mean, real wood bats. I
Yeah.
mean, nowadays you would never do that, right? You give away a little plastic something as they exit the stadium.
Yeah, no, you're right.
You're giving away bats. You got like beer in those cups that you and I talk about, Mike, that disintegrate, you know, but you better drink your beer quick. So you're having them quick and you're holding your bat and it's just, and why not give a Reggie bar as well? I mean, that's when they cared, to your point, Thomas, about the fan. They invested in the fan. They don't do that anymore.
Yeah, all right. There's another thing I wanted to say because I had talked to Rob about this. When Steinbrenner was the owner of the Yankees, that was special. You were proud of that guy for doing and gambling. And Darren, like, you weren't a Yankee fan, but I remember how you were involved with the Winfield Foundation. Huge. But I always remember Lou Piniello's story about when he came over and he met George Steinbrenner and he said, I want to wear my beard. And Steinbrenner said, no beards here. And he said, well, you know, something, Mr. Steinbrenner, Jesus had a beard. And Steinbrenner said, yeah, you're right. And he said, come with me. And he looks out the window and he says, you see that pool out there? They were in Tampa at the time. He said, yeah. He said, when you can walk across that water like Jesus said, you can have your beard. And those are just great times. Those stories that we had a chance to hear, you don't even hear these stories no more. It just doesn't happen, you know. But I remember my dad putting us in the truck with our friends, and we sat. Remember that old truck, Darren? Yep. And we would go there with 4, 5, 6 of our friends packed in there and going to Shea Stadium.
Literally, it was just like.
I don't think that happens too much today.
No, I mean, just so you know, picture it had 2 windows in the front, long in the back, like you were about to kidnap some young kids, you know, to put them into a forced labor camp. I mean, I'm not exaggerating, right? No windows, and there was no seats. You sat on the floor.
It was a platform.
Yeah, you're like a bobblehead. Oh, horrible. But you know, we loved it. We loved it because why? We're going to a game.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous because like when I was growing up, you know, we didn't have a stadium around here in Brevard County. You know, the closest baseball stadium is either Miami or Tampa Bay. And then they got one for a little while up in Vieira for the Washington National Spring Training. And they shortly closed, you know, a couple of years ago. So we really didn't have any stadiums to go to. I wish I could tell a story like that, bouncing around in the back of a truck. That sounds fun.
You know?
Well, in the 90s, they did have that stadium, Eileen. That's where the Florida Marlins, the Manatees play, right? That's where I met Edgar Renteria, the guy that got that game-winning RBI. I have the bat signed by Edgar Renteria right in my closet. It's not for sale.
No, it's not.
Not for sale.
You know,
It's not an extravaganza giveaway. Got it.
Not an extravaganza giveaway.
By the way, to put things into a bow, right? So that age is different. So remember, the Dodgers move out to LA, right? I've told the story on our podcast before. I think I did. So they knocked down Ebbets Field kind of right away, right? Polo Ground stayed for a while. The Mets played there. My dad, our dad, had not one, but 2 seats from Ebbets Field. Tom, you know this, right? Do you remember this? And do you know how we got them? They threw them away. They were in the garbage out in the street.
Wow.
Nowadays, they sell them, they auction them off, they this and that. That's how things have changed. Back to Thomas, your great salient point. I love it. They don't invest in the fan anymore.
Yeah.
They don't.
That is a great
Sometimes
point.
it's the old, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like, you know, I understand technology. We got to get with it. I just miss the old regular ticket. You know, I have to like hope that I have Wi-Fi service, go through the phone, get anxiety trying to go in the game and scroll. I just want the paid per ticket. That's all I want.
Yeah.
So, but thank all of you on so much. I wish we can keep going. So we'll have to have a part 2 of this in the coming months. Absolutely. Thank all of you for being on with us today. Unfortunately, we have to wrap this up. But again, just happy Memorial Day weekend to everyone listening. Thank you for joining us. And until next time, we'll see you around the ballpark.